Hey guys, everyone's favourite local TRAPTRIX player here, and today I'll be showcasing the TRAPTRIX deck I took to YCS Sydney 2025, where despite an unfavourable metagame, I finished 156th out of 898 players. What can I say? I enjoy the deck's playstyle, it's easy to wield over a long day, and I can torment my fellow Aussies while Sarah smiles on. Now, despite not making finals or even making top 100, overall I'm satisfied, garnering 6 wins from 10 matches before the conclusion of Swiss, facing off against Ryzeal, Blue Eyes, Kashtira, my first ever victory over Maliss, thank you Triple Tactics Talents, and confusingly Crystal Beast Snake Eyes OTK. Anyway, had fun, got some cool loot, and talked all things Yu-Gi-Oh before finishing with the Edison side of it. Hope everyone enjoys the showcase. If you've got questions or tips, comment below. I do intend on returning next year, so Australia, take notice. For now though, here's my deck. Let's have some fun. Beginning with monsters, we have our preferred starters in 3 TRAPTRIX Mamelio and 3 TRAPTRIX Mantis. Mamelio nets you a trap card, while Mantis searches a monster. You normal summon them, and at that point, your opponent is forced to either negate them, or you go +1 with a card that'll further your plays, and then after that, you link off into Sarah, regardless of outcome, and you continue. Pretty simple stuff. Standard TRAPTRIX play. We have 2 copies of Pudica and 2 copies of Garden. I prefer the 2-2 ratio purely because if you go second, you want to hard open this to help get past boards. Not to mention, if you open both a Pudica and a Garden, you can normal summon the Pudica, bait out your opponent's first negate or pop, then you can activate this and continue playing. Either way, this ratio helps you go second while still being useful going first. Here we have 2 copies of TRAPTRIX Dione. Good in a top deck war, good search off of Sarah, combos well with a field spell. Pretty much, it's a 1-card rank 4 or link 2 Sarah trigger. It's recovery, and it's just one of the best cards to draw into. You don't necessarily want to open it, hence why you run 2. And if you happen to special summon it either via Sarah or Holtier, you get a trap hole back. 2 copies of TRAPTRIX Arachnocamper. I prefer 2 copies of Arachnocamper to the standard 1 Arachnocamper, 1 Vesiculo, simply because it helps going second. Say your summon is negated, you can link that off into Sarah, special Arachnocamper, trigger Sarah, and still set a trap hole card. Or if your opponent goes to pop your normal summon, you can summon Arachnocamper in response, so that gets popped. You then link it off into Sarah, set your cards, keep going. Not to mention, she protects your back row, and you could search off of Mantis and a few other little neat tricks. On to our hand traps. 2 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 2 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, and 3 copies of Droll and Lockbird. Ash Blossom, while designated is everywhere, she can still end a turn when timed right. Ghost Ogre nails stuff like Duo Drive, Field Spells, the Blue Eyes Trap card, good first or second, and Droll, well, you simply wait till your opponent searches a card, then you discard and forget, and at that point, either your opponent's forced down a particular line of play, or you outright end their turn. Onto spells, we have 2 copies of TRAPTRIX Garden. As mentioned, it's good first or second with 3 great effects. Most of the time you'll be using the additional normal summon, but the revival and battle protection do come up. 2 copies of Triple Tactics Thrust. Your Maliss gets Ash Blossomed, or your Sarah gets detonated. You can search the card you need from your deck to further your play, be it Triple Tactics Talent or Imperm to help break a board. Set stuff like Haltier or Shade, or even set something like a Trap Hole or a unique tech like Needle Sealing, but I'll go more onto that one later. Regardless of what you pick, Talents furthers your play and punishes your opponent for acting too recklessly. And definitely one of the strongest spells to consider for Traptrix currently. From there, 1 Triple Tactics Talents. You either draw 2, steal a monster, rip a card from your opponent's hand. But funny story, my opponent goes full Maliss combo in game 2 at YCS. I opened no hand traps, so I just sit there waiting for him to end his turn. My turn, I draw, I just look at the card expecting him to do the Griffin combo in the draw phase, but he made the mistake of waiting to the main phase to do it. So he does a Griffin combo, at which point I then proceed to take control of his Nightmare Griffin, and the look he gave me was priceless. And to add insult to injury, I summoned Typhon on top of the Griffin at the end of the turn so he couldn't get it back. But yeah, really good card. The effects you'll be using 9 times out of 10 are either the draw 2 or the take control of a monster, depending on the situation. And either effect can quite literally win you the game. Finally, we have a spell I'd argue is the best going second card in the game. 3 copies of Super Polymerization alongside Madragon of the Swamp and Garura Wings of Resonant Life. Your opponents can't negate or respond to the card. It's useful both going first and second, and you can even take advantage of the discard cost by pitching stuff like Haltier or reviving a Trix monster you discard with one of these 3. And once you've broken your opponent's board, you can then either use this for further protection or link off Garura, draw a card, or just swing and do extra damage. No matter how you use it, this card will always do something in a matchup, I find. And that's the spells. We have 3 copies of Traptrix Haltier. You want to see this card, doesn't matter how, be it searching it off of Mamelio, hard drawing it, or doing something like summoning Mantis, searching Arachnocamper, and then linking the Mantis off into Sarah, summoning Arachnocamper to then set it off of it. You want to see it. Because it's a 1 card, rank 4, it triggers Sarah, and then after that, you've got a recovery disruption in the grave that you can use on your opponent's turn or your own turn. And worst case scenario, it's another Traptrix name that you can use to link off into Sarah. Two copies of Grave Digger's Trap Hole. Stops stuff like Nibiru. Stops Maliss. Deals with a wide variety of effects, and you can literally burn your opponents for game. 1 Floodgate Trap Hole. I usually prefer running 2, but not quite the metagame for it. Still, being able to lock out one of your opponent's zones and stop any summon short of a link will always have its uses. And rounding out the trap holes is 1 copy of Traptrix Trap Hole Nightmare, which is pretty much Solemn Strike but searchable. We have 3 copies of the Phantom Knight Shade Brigandine. You run it for the same reason as Haltier. It's a turn 1 Sarah trigger, potential extra deck material, and after turn 1 it becomes a chump blocker or potential disruption when used in conjunction with Sarah. 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, which is pretty much the MST of the modern era. You either negate a monster effect to help break boards, or you use it as a hand trap. And in TRAPTRIX, it has the added benefit of triggering Sarah if you set it. For the last trap, and one you saw earlier, my lone copy of Needle Sealing, I run this purely as a thrust target. The idea is, say your opponent uses Ash Blossom on your normal summon, or Sarah, or any other hand trap. You then activate Thrust, set that card, and depending on what else you did that turn, be it you got Rafflesia up, or set a few trap cards, your opponent's then forced to deal with the 4 or more restriction, a potential board wipe that could activate at any time while having to navigate your other trap cards. For the extra deck, we have 2 copies of TRAPTRIX Sarah. She's the card that makes TRAPTRIX viable in the modern era. You want to get it of the field ASAP. You then either use a trap card or a TRAPTRIX effect, and then you snowball from there. Very simple. I choose to run 2 instead of 3 purely because I want the extra deck space for cards like Typhon and Super Poly targets to help me go second. But I figured with cards like Alamaris, Holtier, I have more than enough ways to revive her. Moving on, we have 1 copy of TRAPTRIX Adipus. She's access code Talker Light. Basically, you and your opponent have grinded for a bit. You've used up your effects, at which point you link everything off, negate what's left of your opponent's board, pop a card, and then push the game. 1 copy of TRAPTRIX Rafflesia. She's really good in the hand trap riddled metagame we have right now. She protects the rest of your monsters from card effects and destruction while copying a trap hole from the deck. 1 copy of Pingula. She's basically an extra deck version of Mantis. You summon her, you search a card, you then have the added bonus of if an opponent's monster leaves the field, she gains that monster as a material and becomes immune to that monster's type. And finally, a card that I feel is a little underrated, TRAPTRIX Alamaris. She's a Sarah trigger, she helps you go second, and then once she's used her revival effect, you can then link her off and the monster she revived off into, say, SP Little Knight or a Nightmare monster for further plays. 1 copy of IP Masquerena. Lets you link into stuff like SP Little Knight or Goddess on the opponent's turn. She's good if you get debarriered or if you just want to have another form of disruption. 1 copy of SP Little Knight. Gets rid of a card on summon, and depending on how your opponent interacts with you, you can either remove another card till the end of the turn, or protect your own stuff. And then the last link is Underworld Goddess of the Closed Moon. She's a board breaker, works really well in the deck because of cards like Holtier, and stuff like Towers and Detonator are a lot easier to remove with her present. For our XYZs, we have 1 copy of Time Free Freedoer. Non-targeting removal, rips cards off your opponent's deck and can dodge Nib. Just a really good pressure card. 1 copy of Baguska. Can come clutch in many games when you're trying to grind out a win. Only came up for me once at YCS, but still worth a slot. 1 copy of the now thankfully banned Abyss Dweller. Any card that can shut off entire decks deserves to be banned, and thankfully Abyss Dweller is where it belongs. Came up a few times at YCS, but this will be the last time it gets ran. So, goodbye to you. Finally, 1 copy of Typhon. A good going second option. Stops Nib. Breaks past Detonator. Really good in the current metagame, but just a card that I think in general should be ran in control decks. It's just really good at breaking down boards and helping you go second. So, if you have it, run it. Winding up the extra deck is 1 copy of Mudragon of the Swamp and 1 copy of Garura Wings of Resonant Life, my Super Poly targets. Finishing up with the side deck, we have 3 copies of Artifact Lancia. Occasionally you'll use it to stop Evenly and Shifter, but most of the time it's there purely for the Maliss matchup. We then have 3 copies of Ultimate Slayer and Mirrorlogic Agritor. You bring this in versus Ryzeal. Basically, Super Poly doesn't do much against Ryzeal, so this is a straight swap. On paper, it does come up against Blue Eyes, but not that much. I have 2 copies of Lightning Storm. Always got to have some back row hate in the side deck. Plus, it helps you go second, so complements Super Poly and Imperm. 3 copies of the mandatory Dimensional Barrier. If you're versing any deck reliant on a non-link extra deck mechanic, you always side this in. Ends turns, and it beats one of the best decks in the game currently, Ryzeal. Lastly, we have Free Solemn Strike, the card you side in when you don't know what to side in. It protects your plays, stops a summon, not much else to say on it. And that's the deck. Just a few shout-outs to finish things up. First off, big thank you to Joshua Hole from Perth Pro Players. Your meta and deck advice leading up to YCS is most appreciated. Additionally, thank you to the TRAPTRIX Discord for all the fun and deck building help, with personal shout-outs to Twigs, Ivy, Local Legend, Ace Cravat and Zero Ender. Additionally, cheers to the meetup Flygon727. See you next year for another game. Additionally, thank you to Hi, My Name is Dale for your video help. Please like and subscribe to his content. Lastly, shout-outs to Alex and my brother Reese for coming to YCS with me. I hope you two had fun and that you will come with me next year. And that wraps up the showcase. If you have any comments or questions, please post below. Otherwise, like and subscribe. Until next year, see you later.